Okay, I am so happy and pleased to present the next speakers. These are my "What the hell is this" email companions. So these are the people I look up to tell me what the hell is this. So I'm pleased to welcome both Elizabeth Huntley and Nancy Warren from Wolf Watcher, and Elizabeth Huntley from the Sierra Club. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Whoa, let's see if it works here. Okay, yeah. The reason that question came up is, what the hell is this? When Melissa contacted us, she asked me to talk about enforcement actions. And I'm going, enforcement actions? My only involvement with enforcement is when I was in a fender bender and I demanded that I be issued a ticket so that I can fight it, so that I can go before the judge. And, I need it on here, yeah, that's okay. And I won, and got the other party to have to pay the deductible. So I said, I know nothing about enforcement, so I had to do some research on this. But getting started here, we know the wolves have unique qualities, the pack dynamics, the loyalty. I don't need to go into all that. But the topic of, speak in the mic. Oh, there it goes. Okay. But how do wolves compare to other wildlife in the eyes of the law? And we all know wolves have baggage. Studies continually show there's lots and lots of baggage. We have fear, the hatred, the ignorance, the misunderstandings, the politics. We got rid of wolves for a good reason. And all these things, these individual and groups capitalize on this fear and just feed into it. The misunderstanding on the role of wolves and the ecological benefits. And then, of course, we have the political climate. And there it goes. Okay, so I start looking at other wildlife in the state, in both Michigan and Wisconsin. And we have the pine marten. We heard a little bit about them yesterday. They're found mostly in the Nicolet and the Chequamegon, just like our wolves are. According to the latest statistics I could find, which is 10 years old here, Wisconsin had a population of about 500 to 1,000 marten. But marten have special privileges. There's no hunting or trapping of marten. We have special marten protection zones where there's limited trapping of other species to avoid incidental take of the marten. So we have laws and rules in place to protect them, and they're a non-hunted species. For wolves, except on tribal lands, there are no areas where wolves can simply be wolves. These little isolated areas are the only places where wolves can actually be wolves without being harassed. Deer, it's illegal to hunt deer with dogs in either Michigan or Wisconsin, but of course we know we can hunt wolves with dogs. In Michigan, we have turkeys. We have a population of 200,000 turkeys. You illegally kill a turkey in Michigan, and you're looking at a $200 to $1,000 fine, 5 to 90 days jail, $1,000 restitution. Restitution in Michigan is the value assessed by the state for that animal. That's in addition to any fines. You have to pay the state $1,000 if you kill a turkey. Plus, you're going to lose your hunting licenses for the remainder of the year convicted, plus the next 3 years. Illegally kill a deer in Michigan, you're looking at the base of $200 to $1,000 fine, plus your 5 to 90 days of jail, loss of hunting privileges, so you get all that. You have a base restitution of the $1,000, but if it's a buck, you get an additional $1,000. And if it's an 8 to 10 point buck, you get an additional $500 penalty. If an 11 point or more, it's $750. So, plus you get an additional 2 years hunting licenses. So this buck that the photo of is in my backyard, 8 point buck, if I shot that illegally, I'd be looking at a $6,000 fine and a loss of hunting licenses for 6 years. Elk in Wisconsin, you shoot an elk illegally and you have a fine of $1,000 to $15,000 fine, or 6 months in jail, or both, plus the hunting license revocation of 5 years. But if it's a wolf, in Michigan, you get the same fine as a turkey. You get $200 to $1,000, but your restitution If it's a protected species, you have to pay a whole $100. And if it's a game species, now I'm often told, oh, as a game species, the wolf would have far more value. Well, it has a lot less than a turkey. But as a game species in Michigan, $100 to $500 restitution. And as I said, turkeys have $1,000. So with a population of about 636 animals, you shoot one illegally, you're looking at, a minimal fine. Wisconsin was really unique. This one here took a lot of research, and I thank Abby, I think she's still here, an intern who helped me do some research on this because I could not find anywhere what the penalties were for killing a wolf in Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, each case is different. And it starts with an $87.50 surcharge. And then on top of that, they look at whatever other violations could happen. So if we go a little further, so let's just take a wolf that's shot outside of a closed or in a closed season, they'll get an extra $263. No license, they happen to be shooting and they don't have a hunting license, they'll have an extra $222. If they hunted after hours, they're going to look at whether or not it was 1 hour before or did you shoot it at night. So just as an example, shooting a wolf during a closed season after hunting hours without a license could result in $835 fine. So, but wildlife violation convictions are extremely rare, or what happens most often are there's plea agreements. And it usually they're expensive, for one thing, because you have to pay all the costs. The state has to pay, the local courts are paying, so it's expensive. Then we look at the conservation officer who has to conduct the investigation, and if there's sufficient evidence he's going to bring forth the case, then it gets referred to the prosecutors. And the prosecutor or the DA and the judge are elected positions. And so they are influenced by local opinion, their attitudes, and their local biases. I followed a wolf poaching case in Michigan, and the shooter was hunting deer with his young son. He happened to be the brother of a state trooper. The CO turned the case over. It went before the judge, and I sat in the courtroom as I heard the judge ask the guy, so you were hunting deer? Yes, sir. And he says, were you afraid when you saw that wolf? And he said, well, yeah. And he goes, did you fear for the life of your son? And the guy says, yes. And he goes, well, that shooting was justified because the Endangered Species Act says you can shoot a wolf if it's to protect human life. And so he assessed him a token fine and sent him on his way. So after all the work, he got nothing. I mean, literally nothing of a fine. And then we're dealing with the defense. So now you're going to bring in an attorney. The defense says, oh, it was just a coyote or a wolf. I heard this said in a courtroom too. So the attitude is predators have no value. They're varmint. Mistaken identity, that's the common one. I thought the wolf was a coyote. I was in the middle of a predator hunt. Coyote came out, and then I saw this animal. I assumed it was a coyote, and I shot it. They get off pretty easy for that one. I was scared, the self-defense one, as I mentioned. So we had another one, a shooting where the fellow was in a deer blind, and he said, I fired a warning shot, but 10 minutes later the wolf came back, so I was scared, so I shot it. So though it's the reality of the court system. But we do have powerful tools. And the number one tool is the Freedom of Information Act. And it was alluded to yesterday. Freedom of Information Act is your right as citizens to access information from the federal government. So FOIA is a federal law. In Wisconsin, we have the Wisconsin Opens Record Law, and that guarantees public access to public records of government bodies at all levels of government. So that's the local government, your local township level, your state government is all open government. And each state has this kind of a rule. It may be called something differently, but in essence, we can access this record. And we also have the open meetings law, which sets out meetings of which government bodies must be open to the public, the type and timing of notices about meetings, and requirements for public participation. So that's why our Natural Resource Board meetings are open to the public, because they are required to do that. So you need to check each individual agency website for any prescribed forms. If for Wisconsin, there isn't a specified form, you could just send an email. It'll tell you how to request it. Wisconsin is very good in responding. I have to admit, they really are in responding. They'll at least tell you whether or not they can get that information for you. There's a few other things. There's going to likely be fees, but there is a part of the law that says if you can show that disclosure is in the public's interest and will contribute to the public's understanding, you can ask for a waiver of the fees. And I have to say, I've had to pay very minimal charges. I've usually been able to say, by providing me with all this depredation information, it's going to contribute to the public's understanding of the impact wolves are having on livestock. And generally, I can get off pretty easy. But be prepared for games, and there are gonna be games, I can guarantee that. When I requested comments that were submitted to the DNR, Michigan DNR, regarding the wolf hunt, first I was told, oh, there are so many, this is gonna cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So I said, fine, okay, I don't need you to photocopy every comment. I'll just come in and review them. Are they in Marquette? Are they in Lansing? Where are they so I can review them? And all of a sudden they went, whoa, no, 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 no. We don't want you coming in to see them, because then they can't charge you for that if they just park you in a room. And I said, well, then what solution is it? I don't want to have to pay that high price. You don't want to waive the fees. And there must be another way, because then I'll just come in and look at them. It's no problem. I could do that. And they said, well, we'll see if we can download them to a flash drive for you. And I went, okay. So they did. They only charged me the cost of a flash drive and really minimal time for them to do it. So for like $40, I got 6,000 comments that I was able to sort through. So, but it is important to do that. Personal information will be redacted. They're not supposed to give you out, like you say, you want to know the hounding, they're not going to give you the name and address of the hounder who lost the dog. But they will give you, or they're supposed to give you, they didn't want to give it to me, but then I said, why not? When I asked for a depredation event, I asked for the township, section, and range where it happened, and they said that was too personal. And I said, no, that just identifies where it is. It doesn't tell me who owns the land. It doesn't tell me who is the owner of the cattle. It doesn't tell me any of that, and I had to do an appeal, but I got that information. Be specific. If you're asking for comments, specify the period of time. Don't say, I want all the comments submitted to the DNR regarding the wolf hunt. So be very, very specific. About 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, as we prepared for the Michigan wolf hunt, we had a DNR spokesperson who got on the radio and claimed that in defense of the wolf hunt, we needed this wolf hunt, that there was a situation where we had homeowners that were pounding on sliding glass door at a wolf that showed no fear. As soon as I heard that interview, I immediately fired off a request to the DNR and said, I want a copy of that incident report, where that happened, when it happened. I didn't want the names, I just wanted to know where it happened. After I got, after going back and forth with this and delays and everything else, I finally got a response that no such incident ever took place. And I went, okay, so then I took that and sent that to the interviewer from the radio station, who then contacted the DNR spokesperson, brought him on, and he had to take back his story. So, there are things we can do. And if you're denied, they have to give you an appeal. There is an appeal period. Don't be afraid to appeal. They will give you statements that says how to appeal. You appeal to, like the DNR, usually it's to the DNR head. So just go ahead and appeal it. It's real easy. And the bottom line is, as advocates, we can't give up. We have to keep our ears open. Violators like to brag, especially if they've had a few beers. So they're not going to brag when you're in the room, but they might brag to someone who's a friend of yours. So keep your ears open. Don't make generalizations. I know it's real easy, and we were attacking the bear hound hunters over the last day and a half, but this is a very small minority of hunters. Not all hound hunters put their dogs at risk. Compared to the numbers of dogs used in hunting, very few are actually killed or injured by wolves. So we want to be careful not to alienate people. Get to know the prosecutor in your town. My prosecutor knows me by name, and he even said during a court hearing, and I'm just sitting there in the room, just observing, and he turned to me and looked at me and he told the judge, she won't give up. So you may as well just give her what she wants, you know, type thing. Call for updates. You let him and her know that you're watching. You're a voter too. Offer suggestions. On several occasions, I recommended that the shooter for the wolf attend a wolf education program. And each time the prosecutor and the judge assessed that as part of the penalty. It didn't do well. You know, he came to a wolf education program. And then also we need to request records and use the press. The press is going to be here. Use them. And also engage others. Find common ground. Like-minded organizations. How can we work together? Work with other groups, individuals. Where are carcass dumps? Maybe we can work together to eliminate carcass dumps. We want the same thing. We don't want to see depredation. The farmer doesn't want depredation. So maybe we can find ways to reduce livestock. We need to expose, as I said in the last talk here, expose legislators for what they voted for. We target legislators. Maybe what we need is a campaign, top 10 state legislators that we need to get rid of. Expose the issue that in trapping, it's legal to step on the chest of a predator to kill it. That's considered killing it immediately. You know, if the public was aware of some of these things, maybe they would pause. Maybe the legislators will pause. So with that, I want to turn this over to... okay, now let's see, how do we get to yours? Down here. And now Liz is, there it is. Yay, by the end of this conference, we might have this done. Oh, down there? Yeah. Where did you do that at? Okay.
I'm used to having a mouse. Where is that thing?
That's what I was trying to find it with the mouse. Can you get it? You should be able to just go with the slide program. Slideshow up there.
I can't even find the...
I don't find the mouse.
I know. I just want to make them bigger. There's the mouse.
There it is. Okay.
Thank you.
Here. Got it.
First, I just want to thank the sponsors of the conference for asking me to speak. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here today. And I'm just going to touch very briefly on our all wildlife crimes treated equally, and Nancy covered that pretty well. Instead, I'm just going to show you a few media headlines about harm done to wildlife over the past several years. $20,000 levied fines on a deer poacher. Another deer poaching incident resulted in jail time and fines. And what made media headlines just a year or two ago was the turtle whose head was bashed in on a golf course. A huge reward, $10,000 to find the killer or killers of that turtle. So we definitely see the media headlines, very little, if nothing, on wolves. But what about black bear? What are the fines for the big game species, the black bear in Wisconsin? They run from $1,000 to $10,000 with a loss of hunting privileges of 3 years. If you enter the den of a hibernating bear and harass and kill it or harm the bear, that's $10,000, possible 9 months incarceration. And civil actions against bear poachers start at $175. I don't know if anybody heard recently, I think it was in the last year, there was a bear hibernating drug out of its den and decapitated. That made the news. I don't know if you're aware that in the Wisconsin state statutes, one hunting group, is mentioned several times, and that's the Wisconsin Bear Hunters Association Incorporated. Don't know if any of you were aware that that hunting group is actually a corporation. I just took a snippet of some of the mentions in the statutes. So the Wisconsin Bear Hunters Association Incorporated is heavily invested in bear management, okay? Very heavily invested. We know they have a powerful lobby. Here's how a corporation is defined in Wisconsin state statutes. Means a corporation for profit. That is not a foreign corporation. So, show me the money. So the Wisconsin Bear Hunters Association is driving this big business. So we talk about optimizing deer management, growing the deer population for profit. Well, that's happening with black bear as well. And this is a snippet from the Wisconsin Bear Hunters Association website under About. And as you can see, bear hunting in Wisconsin is the ultimate family sport. I just can't fathom that myself, but it's, according to them, it's the ultimate family sport. And they mention the outdoor heritage of killing bear. And if you note the bait pile photo that they're feeding from, which is part of the issue right now, because we have seen a triple in black bear population from 1989 at 9,000. 2014 census by the DNR is 28,650 animals. They are making their way further south and southwest in the state. So the harvest was set for 4,100 animals, which is half of the 1989 population. Okay? So it's a big business to kill bear in the state. So this is a little bit of a busy slide, but in sum, I just want to point out one sentence. This is all from the DNR. In 2014, Wildlife Services and the DNR euthanized 6 bears. These bears either depredated livestock, were highly habituated to humans, or entered occupied dwellings. Entered occupied dwellings. So they were taken out. Nuisance incidents on bears has been on the rise. Okay? So I guess what I'm saying is bears are big business in Wisconsin, wolves not so much. So what I'm going to show you next is the Sierra Club has created an anonymous hounding survey. An anonymous hounding survey. And anybody can complete the survey. There are no identifiers in the survey. It's 2 pages, front and back. This is a snippet of some of the questions in the hounding survey. These hounding surveys are going to be available after lunch, and you're also all will be sent an electronic form of the hounding survey. So should you wish to complete it, all the information on where to send it is on the form. Obviously, this will apply only to people who live in those areas where hounding is currently being done. So there's just a few more questions that I wanted to show you. You can briefly glance at them. And again, totally anonymous. So I'm hoping that those of you that live in those areas with hounds running through your territory will take a moment and complete the survey and send it in. And that's it. No, you can complete it. Yeah, you sure, because you may know people who do live in those areas, so I do stand corrected. If you know of people that live in those areas, I would encourage you to complete it on behalf of those individuals that may be too intimidated to fill it out themselves. Yes, absolutely, absolutely, yes. Any other questions for either Nancy or myself? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.